hello everyone, and welcome to Proline. I'm John Cranton in Las Vegas, joined by Jeff Saad of Las Vegas Sports Services and world champion handicapper Jim Feist. We're going to be looking at some upcoming games this weekend, as well as some NFL coaching changes. It's the first full weekend of NFL preseason after the Hall of Fame game between the Dolphins and the Cowboys. But first, Jim Feist. Jim, you've been doing Proline since the 1978 football season, so this is the 35th consecutive year that Proline has been on the air making money for you and your viewers. Congratulations. And are you getting smarter, or are the odds makers getting dumber?
Well, I don't think the odds makers are dumb at all. I think it just takes a lot of hard work. I've been fortunate to be able to do that work and analyze enough winners, pick more winners than losers over the years. And the magic formula is simply, in most businesses, is work hard and get a little lucky. And I've done that.
Okay, Jim, you've been on a terrific baseball run, 45-23, fattening up wallets for the preseason, and you have a dynamite special on tap. Tell everybody about that.
Well, 45-23 isn't bad, and we don't lay really big favorites, so you're not really looking at 2-1 favorites all the time with us. We got a pretty low average that we're either playing a small dog or a small favorite. We're also 14-7 in NFL preseason high roller platinums the last 2 years. I have an NFL preseason special play through September 2nd in football, NFL preseason, plus the first week of college for $19. That includes a high roller NFL release going tonight. It's a $500 play online. Call 1-866-841-1655. That's $19. That includes the high roller right through September 2nd. Call 1-866-841-1655.
All right, make sure you take advantage. And Jeff Saad is joining us from Las Vegas Sports Services. Jeff, you've been on a nice run in baseball. 5-1 the last 2 days, 9-4 the last week, and now you get football season coming. How can folks get aboard with LVSS?
Yes, every year LVSS, you build everyone's bankroll during baseball season to get them ready for the football season. And this Friday I have a 3-team NFL parlay going, 3 games for $9, just $9, 3 games, and you're guaranteed to go 3-0, or the rest of September football will be free. All you have to do is call LVSS, so 1-866-575-8916. Go 3-0 on Friday for just $9. If you don't go 3-0, you get the month of September for free. That's 1-866-575-8916.
Okay, we're going to get into a couple of NFL preseason games going this weekend, but first we're going to start with our Twitter question of the week, and you can ask Jim or Jeff or anyone on the panel a question each week. You can Twitter us at Twitter at Jim Feist Sports or at Facebook at Proline TV. Just put your question in there to any of the panel, and if we use your question on the show, you're going to be put in a drawing to win $100 worth of plays from any handicapper of your choice. Our Twitter question of the week comes from Dexter Madison of Chicago, Illinois. He wants to know about his Bears. He says, will the Bears offense improve with the new coach, Mark Trestman? Jim, what do you think about the New York Bears?
Well, I'm pretty high on the Bears. I think that, and first of all, I like Trestman. He was in the NFL. He coached Rich Gannon back in the Oakland days. This guy is very proficient, a lot of talent. He knows offense, and he will be a big improvement for what Jay Cutler's had to deal with in the past few years. Now, Cutler's, I think, has a lot of talent. He could be one of the best in the business if given enough protection and a decent running game. He hasn't had that, and I think that's going to improve the team. Now, they're going to have to make sure that offensive line protects him, because if they don't, he can't do much laying on his back.
Yeah, and another team, Jeff, will be the Cleveland Browns. They got a new head coach and an old veteran offensive coordinator in Norv Turner. Hey, have they found the right guys to run the team?
They always seem to have a new coach. This year it's Rob Chudzinski. He's the 7th head coach since 1999. Norv Turner always seems to pop up somewhere as their 10th offensive coordinator. They have a new GM, Mike Lombardi. His most recent job was an analyst at the NFL Network. So once again, the Browns are retooling, rebuilding, whatever you want to call it. Every year they seem to change everything. This year they're going to give Brandon Whedon one more chance at quarterback. If he doesn't work out, they'll probably have to draft a quarterback next year. Colt McCoy is with the 49ers now, so Jason Campbell is going to be the backup. Offensive line is decent, and Trent Richardson should improve on his 3.6 yards per carry this year because he played hurt a lot last year. Josh Gordon and Greg Little backup wide receiver. Biggest loss in offense was tight end Ben Watson, so looks like it's going to be Jordan Cameron stepping in there, although he's very inexperienced. Ray Horton's new defensive coordinator going to a 3-4 defense, which is another new adjustment. The front seven will be okay. The first draft pick was Bacavius Mingo, linebacker out of LSU. But except for Joe Hayden, the Browns are thin in the secondary. They're counting on a third-round draft choice, Liam McFadden, to step in there. The Browns are 20-10-2 to the under the last 2 years. Last year they were 7-7-2 against the spread. The last 3 games were outscored 96-43. So overall, it's the same old story in Cleveland. A lot of turnover, changes, rebuilding, and I don't see this team winning more than 5 games. I'll go with 5-11 for the Browns this year, John.
Okay, I'm going to take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, Andy Reid is out in his West Coast style, and they're going to bring in Chip Kelly. In Vegas, the projected win totals for the Eagles is 7.5. I'm not buying it, guys. This is a team that has offensive line trouble the last 2 years and weak quarterback play around starting with coach killer Michael Vick. I mean, if Andy Reid, who I think is an above-average coach, couldn't succeed with these guys, why is somebody like Chip Kelly, who's going to come in with 0 NFL experience, why is he going to be able to turn this group around? He's bringing in a new playbook, and they're a favorite in this very first game against the Patriots, the preseason game, and even that surprised me. I think what's happening is the new coach always seems to get teams, home teams, fired up, and people are looking at Kelly's success in college and the fact that read-oriented speed run option attack was so successful with the 49ers last year and with the Washington Redskins as well last year, and so they think that's the new trend in the NFL, and that is going to be very successful coaches. But here's the thing that people are forgetting. 2 years ago, the Miami Dolphins tried a run-oriented attack with Tony Sparano. It was a disaster. A year ago at this time, Rex Ryan brought in Tim Tebow, and he said, we're going to get back to Jets football, pounding and running the football. That was also a disaster. So be very careful about teams just simply switching to this new style of attack, and they're going to have success. You have to look at the coach and the talent around him, and I think this Eagle team is severely lacking. In addition, we found out this week all kinds of wide receiver trouble. I mean, a week ago, they had 4 guys who were on the roster expected to contribute. Well, 4 of those guys are gone, and Macklin, Ariellis, Ben, and B.J. Cunningham, who was waived. 4 guys have gone for one reason or another, so they have problems in the offensive line. They have problems there. This defense was terrible last year. And you're talking about a team playing in the NFC East, a brutal, tough division. I don't know how they're going to be able to get above 500. And to take that a step further, this weekend's game, they're a favorite over Bill Belichick, a guy who always has his teams ready to play, and they're 10-4. The Patriots are straight up in week 1 of preseason. I'm not buying the Eagles for the season, going over 7.5 wins, and I'm not buying them for this game coming up. Okay, Jim, Jeff mentioned Norv Turner, one of our buddies in Cleveland. The team he left was in San Diego. How are they headed, up or down?
Well, the interesting thing about San Diego was they had what was a general manager, A.J. Smith, out there, and Spanos is the owner. This goes back years ago, and I don't want to go back too far in history, but they had Marty Schottenheimer, was 14-2, and they ended up firing him and giving the job to Norv, who was never a great head coach. He was also always a very good offensive coordinator. That team was, from top to bottom, ownership all the way down, was mismanaged, and they were at that time considered one of the best teams in football, and many people thought they were favored to win the Super Bowl for a couple of years. They destroyed that team. The team is in a rebuilding mode. Now they have a new head coach. Now, this head coach is getting a lot of credit for what happened in Denver last year. Well, the truth of it is, when you're coaching a guy by the name of Peyton Manning, you have a head coach on the field. He is your offensive coordinator. So I don't know that McCoy is going to be able to live up to the expectations people think he's going to bring to the game. He doesn't have Peyton Manning there. He doesn't have the work ethic that Peyton Manning brings. And he has a quarterback in Phillip Rivers who for the last 2 years has been an absolute disaster in turnovers. Now, maybe that's because the offensive line hasn't worked very well. He holds the ball too long. His running game isn't working properly, and he tries to do too much on his own. Well, that could be said for any quarterback in the league. But Rivers has gotten into a lot of bad habits. The team has been decimated from top to bottom from management standpoint, coaching standpoint, and talent standpoint. Now, they're going to have to really do a lot of retooling. I don't see them doing very well this year. There's too many teams in that division that I have high expectations for. I don't think San Diego's going to do very well at all.
Okay. Well, Jeff, Vince Lombardi probably couldn't have won with the Arizona Cardinals last year, which shows how good a coach is as long as he has a decent starting quarterback. Have the Cardinals found a quarterback and a coach?
Well, they found him. We're not sure how good they're going to be, though. They were pretty much unwatchable last year, the Cardinals. They lost 11 out of the last 12 games. End of the season on a 4-8-1 against a spread run. Their offense is 28th in passing, last in rushing. The QB situation was a disaster, so they picked up Carson Palmer. He'll be an improvement, but last year he threw 14 interceptions to go along with his 22 touchdown passes. The backup is Drew Stanton. Bruce Arians he did a great job in Indianapolis last year, and he's overhauled the roster. He was an assistant with the Steelers when they won their 2 Super Bowls. He likes downfield passing, which is good news for Larry Fitzgerald, who's just happy to have a decent quarterback again. The offensive line should be better, but inexperienced, and with the addition of number 1 draft pick Jonathan Cooper. The new defensive coordinator is Todd Bowles. They're going to miss top linebacker Darrell Washington for the first 4 games due to a suspension. The defensive line's in great shape, but the defensive backfield a little shaky. If Jerron Matthew, the outstanding athlete from LSU, can stay out of trouble, he could fill in there at safety. Similar to the Browns here, we have a new coach, new system, but if Palmer goes down, they're going to be in the same situation as last year. Arians did a great job last year, but he has his work cut out. I'll say the Cardinals will be lucky to win 5 games this year, John.
Okay, I'm going to look at the Cardinals. There's a couple of coaching changes with the assistants that is worth mentioning. First of all, they have a new defensive coordinator. They got rid of Rob Ryan. He loved to bring the blitz, but that team struggled, gave up too many big plays. The secondary struggled. Now they have 72-year-old Monty Kiffin coming in, and he's changed the defense from a 3-4. They're now a 4-3 Tampa 2 cover scheme. That's going to help with speed in the secondary. It's also going to help the pass rushers like Ware and Spencer. So I think it's a pretty good move, and we saw that in Miami in the Hall of Fame game. They played there fairly well. The other thing has to do with the offense. The Cowboys are emphasizing the ground game. Now, last year, they had troubles on the offensive line, and the running backs got banged up, so they really became an all-passing team. Tony Romo's yards went up, but so did his turnovers. They've changed philosophy for this year. They've admitted we are going to go back to the ground game. They've got a first-round pick in Travis Frederick as center, who was exceptionally well against the Dolphins in the first half in that first game. And then the second-year guard, Ron Leary, played well. They ended up with 170 yards rushing against the Dolphins. That's a trend that you're going to continue to see. Offensive line looks better, and they are committed to the run. That game went over the total. However, I wouldn't give up on the Dallas Cowboys as a team to look at under the total the rest of preseason and September for odds makers catch up, because the defense is going to be improved, and when you run the ball, you chew up the clock, and games could sail under the total. Keep that in mind with the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, we got 2 games that are coming up on the schedule this weekend to look at. First, let's take a look at the Jets-Lions game on Friday night. Jim, the number has gone from 4.5 on Detroit, the home team, down to 3.5. Total is at 36. Both teams are in bounce-back mode. Was that your money moving it, or was that Billy Walters?
Well, I don't know what Billy's betting, but when I look at these 2 teams, the Jets, Mark Sanchez, we talked about it earlier. I think, Jeff, you mentioned that they're trying the West Coast offense, and I think the one thing about Sanchez is good with that is he comes from the West Coast. That's about the only thing I can say good about him. He's really been a disappointment after the first couple years he was in New York. And they got Geno Smith, the rookie. I don't know if he's going to prove himself out at all. This team is a mess. Their wide receivers are really non-existent at this point, unless there's a gem there that we don't know about. Chris Ivory is a great addition, but he's got to remain healthy. He's got hamstring tightness. They have a lot of problems. Wide receivers, running backs, offensive line. Their defense is okay, they're probably the strongest unit on the field, and their coaching is questionable. And, if Rex isn't getting media attention, I'm not sure how much coaching he's doing. I'm not really high on the Jets. I know some people think that they'll pick up, maybe 5-6 wins. I think the number on it is about 6 or 7. I think 7's too high. I don't see where they're going to get 7 wins. I don't really like this club. The Lions are very impressive to me. I like what the Lions have on offense, but as Jeff pointed out earlier, and he'll talk about it more extensively, when you look at this offense for the Lions, they can score points, man. I mean, and they have the tools. They have the running back out of the Dolphins, Reggie Bush. He can catch the ball and the running ball. He spreads the defensive out quite a bit. This is a very prolific offensive team. The question is, can their offensive line do the job? And their defense, of course, has got talent, but they have players on that they're not disciplined, and they get a lot of penalties and cause themselves a lot of problems. This is a very dangerous football team. This game, early in the season, I think their head coach is under a lot of pressure, and the Lions will probably come to play this game. I think they're going to put a little bit of hurting on the Jets. The Jets don't have much to offer.
Well, Jeff, you're a Lions fan from back in the Bobby Lane days. Are they for real?
Not that far. More like the Greg Landry days. Detroit. Well, Detroit. If you talk to Lions fans, they're usually they try to be optimistic, but they know the story here. They're kind of like the Chicago Cubs, the NFL. They have a couple of great years and then revert back to their older ways. That's what they did last year. They blew so many games last year, especially in the last 2 minutes. And now Jim Schwartz, who did a fairly good job the first couple of years, and now he's on the hot seat. Their offensive line, as Jim said, that's their weak spot. Gosder Charles went to the coach. Stephen Peterman was released. Jeff Backus retired. And now they're going to rely on some young people, including Riley Reef, one of the top draft choices from a couple of years ago. So obviously it's a great offense if you can give the Stafford time and he just doesn't get hurt. The defense, the front seven is pretty solid, and they improved their secondary a lot. So the over and under the Lions for the season is 8, and they might barely get there. I would lay off that bet, but 8 or 9 wins might be what the Lions might accomplish this year. The Jets are pretty much, as Jim said, a mess right now. They have a new general manager, which means Rex Ryan's probably a lame duck coach. Mark Sanchez trying to learn a new offense that requires precision and timing. That's not really that doesn't look too good for Mark there, because he had enough trouble with the offense the last couple of years. They traded Darrelle Revis, so I have no. The Jets could win 5 or 6 games this year, and then Rex Ryan would probably get fired and then probably start all over again. It doesn't look too good for them. Last year they were 0-4 straight up and against the spread in the preseason. They didn't score an offensive touchdown until the 4th game. They were outscored 88-31. The Lions are 1-4 against the spread in the first game of the preseason. So this game, I would more look at the total, maybe a lower scoring game in this game, and that's the way I look at this game, John.
One thing to point out that I see with the Jets is that they're not going to be scoring any points just like last year. I don't like this quarterback rotation, but look at the change they made as far as offensive coordinator. Monty Morningwig comes in. He is a proponent of the West Coast. That's a short, safe passing attack. It's clear they're not going to unleash Mark Sanchez and having him throw the ball deep. They want to cut down on his turnovers, so you're going to see long drives then with some ground game put in there. So this is not going to be a fired-up offense. This team was 3-1 under the total last year, and if you go back to the previous year, they were on an 0-5 straight up an ATS run in preseason. The Lions kind of sliced them right in half. 2 years ago, they were a terrific team that won 10 games, made the playoffs. Last year was a train wreck of 4-12. Where's the truth? I lean more toward 2 years ago. As Jim pointed out, this offense just so talented and explosive. Even last year when Stafford had only 20 touchdowns and 17 picks, guy came very close to 5,000 yards for the second straight season. So this offense is going to be prolific. On the defensive side of the ball, they still have Gunther Cunningham. What is cropped up in practice, which is stood out, is that they're they're playing more man-to-man coverage. And what that suggests is that when you do that, you free up linebackers to bring the blitz more. Well, historically, that's what Gunther Cunningham loves to do. So that's something to keep in mind in preseason. I think you're going to see the Lions go a lot more man-to-man than last year, and Cunningham is going to unleash that blitz. It'll be very interesting to see if he does it early against a Jet team that is probably going to have all kinds of trouble scoring. And if that's the case, they could really run it up. So I'll go ahead and say that the home team wipes the slate clean from a year ago, and the Lions smoked the Jets 27-10. Let's take a look at the other game we have on Saturday. It's going to be the Giants against the Steelers. Jim, you got the Steelers with a terrific preseason record under Mike Tomlin. You got two teams that are kind of similar, physical, tough defenses, and each has won a pair of Super Bowls over the last 8 years. The Steelers went from 2.5 down to 2, total of 35.5. Who has the edge?
You know, this is a very difficult game for me to look at without really getting some information. I mean, to point out to the listeners that preseason football is not like regular season football. You're only going to see your starters for a short period of time, and then it comes down to the backups. And the squads are very deep right now. There's a lot of players that won't be around later, but they get on the field, and you know, whether it's the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, and they are pretty equal, usually pretty equal to each other. So if you have the better team with maybe the better coaching, that only may last for, 10 or 15 plays at the most. And then you get to the backups. Well, none of these coaches want to put these quarterbacks in too much danger. You don't want to. Big Ben's been hurt on and off for years, and you're certainly not going to have Eli out there very long. So you're going to go to the backups. Well, you look at the backups. You got Bruce Gradkowski, Landry Jones, and John Parker Wilson for Pittsburgh. And if I could find my sheet, I could find the Giants. Of course, you got Eli, David Carr, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to be looking at backup stuff here. So I really don't have a strong opinion in this game. When I liked the Detroit game, I told you I liked the Detroit game, and I don't want to just manufacture something to tell you. This is not a game I like. I'm looking at the game. It opened 1. It's up to 2, 2.5. The total is pretty stable, 35.5. There's one spot right now I'm looking at 36. I really have no opinion on this game at all.
How about you, Jeff?
Well, the Giants, as far as the team overall, look like about the same as last year. Last year, they're 31st in defense. I think they'll improve on that. But they lost OC Manura left to play went to Atlanta. Chris Candy went to Baltimore. They picked up Cullen Jenkins and Mike Patterson from Philly. Made some improvements in the secondary. As long as you have Eli Manning, Victor Cruz, and Hakeem Nicks, they're going to score points, and they're always going to have a chance to get the playoffs and be successful offensively. But the offensive line is getting pretty old. I think all but one is over 30 years old right now. Tom Coughlin is 37-32 straight up in the preseason, 35-30 and 4 against the spread. In the game 1 of the preseason, he's 3-1 against the spread. The Steelers, I don't know. Ben Roethlisberger is 31 years old. I'm not sure how long he can take such a beating. He was sacked 30 times last year, and that was his fewest since 2006. They lost Mike Wallace, of course, to Miami. They still have Emmanuel Sanders, Antonio Brown, and Heath Miller. Although Miller's still recovering from an ACL injury. They lost Casey Hampton and James Harrison on defense. The preseason, Mike Tomlin's always been strong. They're 19-6 straight up, 14-10-1 against the spread, 4-1 in game 1. So, is this game, and they're playing at home too. I'll give the edge to the Steelers this game, John.
I'm going to take a look at the total in the game. You get two rough, physical defensive teams, and some of the early buzz coming out of the camp of the Giants has to do with the defensive linemen. They get defensive end DeMontre Moore, who's been terrific as a pass rusher in practice, and another guy, Jonathan Hankins. He's a huge defensive tackle. They took in the second round from Ohio State. He has been impressive. And then when it comes to the Giants' history, last year they were involved in a very high-scoring preseason opener against Jacksonville, but 2 years ago, 20-10 at Carolina, way under the total as the offense didn't do anything. And then the Steelers, I mean, when Haley got there to run the offense last year, he came in and said, Big Ben is getting killed. He holds the ball too long because you like to throw the ball deep. We're going to run the football more. We're going to make Big Ben throw the ball, hold on to it less, and we want to prevent him from getting killed. there was some mixed results last year. They did run the ball more, but the running game was in the middle of the pack, and his Big Ben sacks did go down, but he still did take a beating. But more important, they didn't score. They were terrible in the red zone. So there's still some things to work on. But what we see in this camp is Haley is still there. They're still going to get back to running the football. They've added zone blocking schemes and that they've been working on in this camp. And they really like the kid from Michigan State, the second-round pick, Levon Bell. He's been impressive. So I got to believe the Steelers are going to go to the running game in this one. Giants do have the very good defensive guys up front and a conservative vanilla game. This is what this is going to be. So I see this game going under the total. All right, let's get some best bets, guys.
I have something in there. Last year there was some, first of all, Ben was hurt quite a bit last year. And he and Haley didn't see eye to eye. There was obviously some tension between the two. They're still both there. Hopefully they worked out their issues. But I want to say something overall in general for preseason football. Unless you have information about what the offensive, defensive coordinators are planning, what the head coach is planning, it's like throwing your money up in the wind and hope it comes back to you. Because this is about information. This is why when we tell you to call us, it's because we have more than just last year's statistics or coaching trends from 10 years ago. Or, we are knowing more than the general public knows because we're getting information because we work really hard to get it. It's harder in preseason to just look at a card and come up with your plays. But when you get information, our percentages are greater. Because in the regular season, the coach isn't going to say, I'm going to play a vanilla offense today. I'm going to run the ball 75% of the time. They don't tell you that in the regular season. They don't tell you anything in the regular season. So what I'm doing now, and we're doing the show on Wednesday, watch your injuries, look at the depth chart behind those where the injuries are. I can tell you right now, the Green Bay Packers are hurting. They got a lot of injuries. There's a concern there. There's a quarterback that got sacked 51 times last year. Now, what is the game plan going into this? I'm not going to talk about that right now because I know what it is, or at least I think I know what it is from the information that I've gotten. This is where we're good. We're good because we dig information out. So all this general handicapping and all the fact that we have these pages of notes up and down and because we're working. But the real good stuff comes from the information. And I want to point that out because in the regular season, that's generally not the case. There's always injury issues, of course. But in the preseason, it's injuries and information. If you get those two things going for you, you're going to win a lot of money. So, again, John, back to you.
Yeah, that's right. Information is key in the stock market and in Las Vegas. Okay, let's go with some best bets, guys. Jeff, you want to continue your hot baseball run into the NFL this weekend, so what kind of specials you have for everybody?
Well, first, my best bet would be the Jets-Lions game to stay under the total. And my special this week, you got to get a 3-team NFL parlay going Friday. 3 games for $9, guaranteed 3-0, or you get a month free. Just call the LVSS at 1-866-575-8916, 1-866-575-8916, 3-0, or you get a month free. Call the LVSS, 1-866-575-8916. It's only $9.
All right, Jim, 14-7 with those high roller platinums in preseason football the last 2 years, as well as a red-hot baseball run. How can everybody get aboard?
Just to show you, there's 21 plays in 8 weeks of play over the last 2 years, including, of course, that you have to add on the what do you call game, the All-Star game, Hall of Fame game. But there are not that many plays, because it's based on information. Information doesn't come on every game. We're 45-23 in baseball, 14-7 the last 2 years high rollers. Special offer, play through September 2nd in football. That's the preseason, plus the first week of college, $19. That includes a high roller play. That's a $500 play included in the package for $19. Call 1-866-841-1655. Now, I agree with Jeff's best bet, the Jets Detroit game going under the total. The only thing I would say about that is the way the Jets are, Detroit could score 36 if they choose to. They probably won't. They'll only pull their starters after the first 5 series or something. So I really like the under, especially at 36.5. It gives you a little bit of an edge. I like Detroit in that game quite a bit. I don't think the Jets have anything to offer, and I think Detroit's going to take full advantage.
Okay, my best bet will be the New England Patriots playing at the Eagles. I'm surprised they're a dog, and the Eagles are 1-7-1 against the spread in week 1 of preseason. And all right, thanks for joining us, everyone. We will see you back next Thursday, every Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific time with another edition of Proline direct from Las Vegas. Good luck, everyone.